Is this thing on? Is this thing on? Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Glenn Lawrence, and I'm back with the Blerd Dad Podcast, a space where we like to have unfiltered conversations and nerd out about fatherhood. And boy, oh boy, fatherhood is it's grand, man. It's good. You know, the good little. It's just like a warm chocolate chip cookie. You know, it's just delicious, and it makes you feel good. And sometimes your fingers get a little sticky. Um, with the brown substance, but it's all for the good. Uh, I'm having fun in it. The kid is growing, man. I just I don't know. He's just saying more things. He's doing more things. He's being more like a person. I call it coming online. You know what I mean? Like when they're first young, they kind of don't know what's what, and they're just mimicking things, and they're not really uh in tune with the world, and you're telling them something, you don't know if they got it. But once they start when they come online, when the system's online, all of a sudden they're like, I know what you said. I'm not going to listen, but I know what you said. So that's where he's at now. He's starting to come online, and he's actively disobeying, not just disobeying because he doesn't know what the words mean. Now he's looking at me like, no, I don't want to follow that instruction. But he's coloring, so that is amazing. He's got a little trait. He's got a talent. He's got something that he likes to do. It's his favorite thing, and he's starting to color inside the lines, which is great. Because it shows that he can see structure, and he's doing a thing. And it's good. It's good. At first, I was a little worried because it had that little scribble, scratchy, kind of maybe he might be leaning towards a Joker type personality, but it's starting to get more inside the lines. It's starting to have a little bit more structure. He can color outside when he wants to, but he's starting to understand. Like, oh, I want this color I want the nose to be purple, and I want the ears to be green. So that's cool. That's catching up on me. Things are going great. Got a comedy show coming up on November 17th at Astro Beer Hall. It's Work Sucks, which will be a great comedy show. I'll be out there telling some jokes about how work is just not the greatest sometimes. So that should be fun. Look forward to doing that. Check that out. Come on out, get your tickets. They'll be up on the website or my Instagram, everywhere where you follow me. You'll be hearing me talk about that. And some other shows might be popping up. For instance, got a show in Lake Anna on December 1st. That should be really fun too. So come on out. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have fun. Again, check out the social medias, and you'll be able to find them there. Wait, what? You don't follow my social media? Please follow my social media. It's Glenn Lawrence Comedy on IG, Glenn Lawrence Comedy on Facebook, Glenn Levels Up on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call the everything app, and levelupcomedy.com. You can find stuff there. And of course, always here on the Blerd Dad Podcast, you can catch up with me doing all the cool things that I do. Now that I've said that, I got to tell you about these amazing people that I know. Yes, our sponsors, it's theymademewear.it. Yes, theymademewear.it. They are an amazing husband and wife team that work tirelessly to make sure that your pet is laced up in the latest fashion. So whether it's a Halloween costume, some comfy jammies, adorable dresses, a custom designer gown, which always blows me away. Custom designer gown, not just any old gown off the shelf, a custom designer gown, like making it fit specifically for them. That's code word for superhero costume, just in case you were wondering. So if you have a super pet, you should check out theymademewear.it and know that whenever you buy from them, some of that money goes towards Hope for Paws, which is an animal rescue organization that works tirelessly to get animals into safe places, off the streets. These animals have been abandoned, and we give them, or they give them, a life. And I guess through proxy, I help give them a life because, I'm spreading the gospel of theymademewear.it as well as Hope for Paws. So with all that being said, use code word Blerd for 50% out checkout. You will be very, very happy that you did. Now then, time to get down to the business at hand. And the business at hand is episode 48 today. We are so close to 50. Can't get to 50 without going through 48. 48 is going to be an amazing episode. I'm talking to Sean Whitfield, who started doing comedy, stand-up comedy, when he was 18 years old as part of DC Improv's funniest college competition. That means he's a funny college student, not just snarky, funny. And he made his way to the finals during his senior year. He's performed all over the country. He's featured for several national. Why can I not talk today? What is going on? Steph, what did you put in the coffee, Steph? What did you put in the coffee, Stephanie? Am I having a stroke? What is happening right now? I've never. Okay, let's try this again. And scene. Okay. Let's try that again. Sean Whitfield started doing comedy when he was 18 years old as part of his DC Improv's funniest college competition. He made it all the way to the finals in his senior year. And then 19 years later, he's still performing. He's performed all over the country and is featured for several nationally touring comedians. He recently participated in the North Carolina Comedy Festival as a selected performer. Still, he's based in the DC area and he's performed on many local stages, including the State Theater, Arlington Drafthouse, and the DC Improv. His deadpan delivery and unexpected punchlines guarantee a good time and great laughs while he's on stage, as well as while he is with us. So, without further ado, I'm going to welcome Sean to the stage. What's happening, Sean?
What's going on, man? I really hope this isn't going to be the episode you have a stroke.
It sounded like, have you ever had that where you're just, I can't say words correctly. I don't know what's happening. I can't get them out.
I have that happen to me on a regular basis. I totally get it. I do that thing very often where mid-word I change what word I want to use. And so then I combine them and then people do things. Are you okay? Like,
yeah,
you good, man?
It's like, no, that was purposeful. I did that for your benefit. I had a word I was going to say. And I switched it up mid-word so that you would understand this. It was actually your fault that I did.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Blame it on me.
No, I mean, just in general, when that happens, yeah, man, it's a weird thing as you get older and you age. I feel like there's some things that you had under your control, and it just changes as you get older. And one of them is talking. One of them is actually just pronouncing words is a big problem now.
Talking and memory. I used to be able to remember everything. Like I had a mind like a steel trap, like they said. And as I get older, I'm just like, people tell me about things that happened. And I'm just like, wait, what? Was I there for that? And they were like, yes, you were the, focus of the event. I was like, sorry. But this is a true story. I completely forgot I was my niece's godfather. She had her first communion this past spring. And they were like, my brother and my sister-in-law were like, oh yeah, get in this picture. And then I was like, why am I getting in this picture? Like, why? Who cares about me? Like, who cares about me or whatever? It's like we're trying to get like the godparents in the picture. I was like, I'm not a godparent. And they're like, Sean, yes, you are. I was like, what? They had to bring up pictures like from, and why this is relevant too is because I was her godparent right when I had two very small kids. So looking back, I realized I don't remember huge chunks of my life during that time period.
It was a whirlwind.
Oh my goodness. The lack of sleep and just trying to get from one place to another with everybody in tow. Oh man.
So wait, they were trying to jog your, like you didn't just take their word for it. Like they had to jog your memory.
Because again, I was insistent. It's like, that's something I would remember. I wouldn't forget something like that. And they were just like trying to be polite about it. But I mean, like, again, this is like at their party. And I was like, oh man, once they showed pictures and then it finally clicked for me. And I was just like, oh, right. Yeah, that I am so sorry.
But you know what? It's better that it was them telling you and not some horrible tragedy where you have to take over for the kid.
Oh my God, right?
It's like, I swear I'm not the godparent. It's like, but you are.
That's not my job.
What am I? What do you want me for? I never signed up for this.
I wouldn't have agreed to this.
That would be a great episode of Maury, like instead of having the paternity test, they just showed you the text messages where you agreed to be the godparent.
You are the godfather.
Yeah. Oh man, what's interesting about that is when I was younger, I didn't realize what godparent meant. I just thought it was a cool title that you would give somebody who you knew really well with your kids, but it's actually the person who's supposed to take care of the child if something happens to the parents, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're Catholic, so it's one of those things where it is actually from like the religious standpoint where it's like it's still kind of I'd say nonsense, and I don't know who's
Yeah.
watching. But that idea of just like you have that extra responsibility to make sure the child is raised in the faith type of thing. That's supposed to be the extra benefit of it. But yes, I feel like there is a very secular version of godparent and being like, yeah, exactly that. That is like, hey, you're the backup parent. So if we die, this kid's yours.
Yeah.
And I feel like in today's age, there'd probably be several other people who would that would fall to before it got to me.
I feel like there's a lot of friends, your college friends, like, oh, I want to be the godparent or whatever. And I'm just wondering if they know that that is what it means to be a godparent, that you're supposed to, you're like, you have it. Like, if something happens to me, this is yours now.
Right. And I think people, even when they realize that, they still don't realize that because they're like, what are the odds that'll happen? And then they make whole movies about it.
Yeah, cue the sad music, dude.
Yeah, probably several Hallmark movies that are of that exact subject.
Well, I'm super glad that that's not the situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
I'm super glad that it was just like a birthday party where they had to remind you that, hey, this could happen. Yeah. So I was looking at your bio and I didn't realize you started doing comedy like fresh out of college. Like you were super young.
I was still in college.
Oh wow, yeah. How was that? What was that? What was wrong with you? What? Why?
You know what? If anything, that's the perfect time to start comedy because you just have a very unearned sense of confidence.
Right.
Like you think you're hilarious and you don't know any better. In high school, I did student council. And so I was the president of my school, and I did that specifically just so that I could get up in front of people and give funny speeches.
So wait, that's your quest for authority and government control was superseded
entertainment
by laughs.
Yeah. I had no desire to do any of the work that was associated with a student-based government, which is, you plan a dance and then you make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do that. But I mean, like, I just, my favorite part was just getting up in front of the school and getting to make people laugh. And that was what I did. And I was pretty good at it.
The thing when comedians will do for stage time. Like you ran for office for stage time.
No, literally that was it. And then when I got to college, it was just like, well, how do you transition this? And it's just like, oh crap, like I can go to like, even at like 18, I went to school here in DC. It's like I can still like go to bars. I mean, some of them. I mean, I can't drink, but a lot of places could still let you in. So it was like, okay, yeah, I'll start doing this. And then I met Allison, who runs the DC Improv. Yeah. She was the one who put together the comedy competition, and I just was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a shot, and I fell in love with it, man. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It was like a cool way to just kind of be a person people wanted to see, which has been my quest my entire life is other people's attention. And my wife jokes that I'm a typical middle child. So
what about me?
Yeah, literally, that is my entire life. And then
I have to give a shout out to Allison because she's done a great job of bringing in new talent into the DC Improv with the open mics and the different competitions and the classes or whatever. They've done a great job, especially navigating through the pandemic and bringing them through the pandemic and making it so that out of the pandemic, there's still a great place to go for amazing comedy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're dead on about, especially during the pandemic, because that had to have been a terrifying time for all of those people. You can't even literally bring anybody in, but they adapted, they overcame. I never made it out. I remember they started even doing like the parking lot shows.
I know. One of my biggest regrets.
I heard they were so cool, and especially during that time that was what you could do. So mad props to Allison. And for anybody watching, definitely go check out the DC Improv. Go see shows there. It doesn't matter who's there, what night. Is going to be a good time. I don't know why I'm plugging them. I don't get anything.
It was probably I was plugging them. It's probably my secret desire to be there more. But
that's the thing. Maybe that's what it is. I'm sucking up. I'm hoping that I'll get another spot soon.
It was a legit compliment, but sometimes compliments can feel like you're sucking up. That's not what we're doing. They do a legitimate job, and we
Absolutely.
also love you.
Absolutely.
Going back to college, here's the thing that I think is great about college and doing comedy that young is that laughs are never easier to get than when someone is in high school or college. I feel like, like,
oh, absolutely.
Like that, you don't have the weight of the world. You don't have bills. When you do, no. I did a show just this past weekend. I was hosting, and the audience was like a little bit older on a Friday night, and they were there to see one specific person. And there's just something about an older person who is there for a reason. They are not coming up off laughs unless it's for the reason that they came there. They're like, I'm here for one reason.
Totally.
I'm here to laugh at this one person. I don't really care what you're saying. So for me to get those laughs, I was like, yeah, that's right. You're going to laugh even though you don't want to. But there was a distinct feeling of like, we are not here for anything except for our friend who made us come to this bringer.
Oh man. That is a constant. I feel like every comic wants to that is like becomes their goal. They want to break through to those people because that's a very common thing. And again, when I was getting more started, like it's always a joke that it's like now when you're a more established comic, like you can't get your friends to come to anything because it's like yeah, no, we're not doing. We already did that. And now it's like you'll go to these shows, bringer shows, or even just some of these like competitions or just even open mics. And these people come and then for some reason they just feel like it's no, I am only gonna laugh for my friend. And it's like, okay, I mean, you can laugh for everybody, like it's okay. And like you said, it's just like, I do have a soft spot for these younger kids who come out. Again, that was me at one point, and again with that unearned sense of confidence. Because I mean, when I first started, I was not funny. Like I thought I was, and then you get up there and you tell what you think is going to be a hilarious joke, and you get crickets. I mean, it is incredibly humbling.
It really is. Yeah.
But these kids who come out and again they they try their best but you nailed it. It's like they don't quite have the understanding of the real world just yet. Like their life experience is very limited. So it just is like, so like I got a D on my history test, and it's like, bro, I got a mortgage, man. Like I don't care about your history test. It'll be fine. Like you're gonna be all right. Yeah. But I mean that's they got to start somewhere, and so it's I'm happy when I do like seeing the younger comedians coming out, and but it is weird though, because like so to get into some of the dad stuff. I mean, I don't want to direct your show, but
I mean, there is no direction right now. You know what I mean?
Well, I just like you. I've been listening to your show and stuff. Especially like I always listen to the episodes of people that I know that you have on. Yeah. Because then I just feel like I'm just sitting next to you guys while you guys are just talking, and it's like I know these guys. But I've so many times I'm just like I want to chime in, and it's like, oh right, no, I'm listening to this on a podcast. Like I can't.
I'm gonna chime in when we're at the open mic, and I'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, how many people you had 3 weeks ago?
But so like being for the listeners at home, like a couple months ago, I gave Glenn crap at one of the mics because he introduces himself as a new dad. But it's like, you got a 2-year-old. That's not new. You've been on the job for 2 years.
Yeah, right.
And then we've had some back and forth about that. And it's all in that of love and everything.
No,
and if anything,
I'm actually very upset every time you point out. Here's why. I'll tell you why. You're not an unnew dad until you've had a second kid. That's how I feel. If you've only had one kid, you're always a new dad. Until the second one drops, you don't get the newness worn off.
You know what? I'll have to take your word for that. I can see that being the case because I'll agree with you. I had my 2 kids pretty close together. We I had my son at who is 12 now, when I was 26.
Oh shit. Okay.
And my daughter is gonna be 11 in February, so she's 10.
Oh, so they're like Irish twins.
They were pretty close.
Okay,
I think they're
Sean, I see you pimping.
that was definitely not on purpose. And my kids know that too. They're just like, yeah, you were not planned. But anyway, it just so being I was a fairly young dad,
Right.
2 kids under 2 by the time I was 28. And that made doing comedy very difficult. So I technically stopped for like years. Like, so like, it's always tough when I put in
Oh
my
yeah.
bio, it's like, I've been doing comedy for 18, 19 years. It's like, yeah, but not continuously. Like I stopped for large periods of time just because it was just tough to
Right.
get out. And I had 2 little, like, it really was mostly my wife too, because like kids go to bed and then they go to bed, and then what are you going to do for the rest of your night? But it was that thing of just, all right, honey, I'm going to go out and make a bunch of strangers laugh tonight. Like, you got this, you got bedtime.
Were you taking it out on the family? Like, if you're not going up for mics, were you taking it out on the family and just telling way too many jokes in and around the family to the point where they're like, all right, please go out to the mics.
It was one of those things where I feel like when you have the little ones, it takes up so much of your brain power that I didn't think about it that much. I mean, it was one of those things, like we talked about, like time goes by so quickly. So it's just like, yeah, I'll get out there next month. I'll get out. And then like, a year goes by, and then you just kind of forget about it. Like it was very easy to just kind of, for me, fall into dad mode and just kind of forget that I had any other interests or hobbies for a very long time. And for those dads out there listening, don't do that. Don't do that. Because as Glenn just said, it's just like you will start directing, your frustrations and stuff out on the people around you. You need to have an outlet, whatever it is.
Yeah. It is interesting. When we first had the kid, I'm around, I'm doing things, I'm helping out. And then it gets to a point where, as comedians, we can press the line. We can, like, especially with our wives who are not comedians, it could be like, all right, it's too much. And I felt like Steph was definitely like, all right, you need to get out because you are driving me crazy with these like one-liners and just jokes, joke everything is a joke or whatever. And it's like, all right, you need to go and get that energy out because you're driving me crazy here. I feel like that definitely was but I'm like trying to be helpful, like, no, I don't need to. Like, no, you need to go out. You need that energy to get out of here.
Yeah. And my wife's definitely like that now. Like we have discussions about it. Just like, are you doing comedy this week? And I was just like, I don't know. And she's like, no, you should go do comedy this week.
You should go.
It's like, okay.
Get out of here.
Because there's one thing that small kids don't really have a great sense of is sarcasm.
Not yet.
So when my kids are little, I very often would just say sarcastic things to them. And my wife was just like, who is that for? Who is that for? And it's like, I guess me.
You know who it's for. It's for myself. I made myself laugh.
Come on.
I think it's cool being at this stage now because they're kind of in the he's in the puppeting stage, or not puppeting, ventriloquist, or the parroting stage where he just parrots back whatever I say to him. And it's just so funny how often something will happen, something falls and breaks, and I'm like, and then that is the word that he catches on to. He's like,
yep.
Fuck. I'm like, no, not that. But I do this thing where if I say it, then I will say a word. So like I was like froggy, like frog it, like, you know what I mean? I'll try to fudge it by saying like, no, daddy didn't say that word. He said this word. And I feel like he's just compartmentalizing, like, no, that word was different. I'm going to use that later.
I feel like everybody learns all the best words from their dad when they do something they didn't mean to do.
Yeah, or their uncle when when they come over and they're like hanging out. That's when you learn all the cool stuff. Like, ooh, taught me this. I'm excited. I have Morgan has a little cousin who I'm excited for them to kind of grow up together with, and he can come over here and learn things from from me as the uncle. Be like, nah, this is how it really go. Like that's. I'll be the old head. I don't know if you have that in your.
Yeah. So I'm one of four. So and now my youngest sister just had her first baby. So now all of my siblings have their own kids.
Nice. Are you a godparent to any other ones, or you don't know?
I know of at least one other one that I'm a godparent for. I knew about that one. That one I remembered because that came at a time where I feel like my life was less hectic. Now I'm doing it. Hectic.
See? We're all stuttering. Can't get it together.
I need more coffee.
I know, right? It's a case of the Fridays or the Mondays or whatever
day it is.
Yeah. But so your kids, they get to see you do comedy, and they're like of the age now where they know what dad is doing, right? Like
they've never seen me do comedy.
Do they have Instagram? Do they have social media?
No.
Oh, so is that a thing? You don't give them that until later, right? Is that how it?
So it's for a lot of the stuff you got to be at least 13.
Oh, perfect.
To sign up for. So my son is 12. So starting next year, the other recommendation that a lot of pediatricians and we're going by is wait till 8 in terms of a phone, and 8 being 8th grade, not 8 years old. So he doesn't have a phone.
Got that wrong, I'm sure. Like, you said 8. It was like we meant 8th grade.
I mean, that's the thing. They've had tablets. They've had. They even have iPods, which are basically just like iPhones, except they can't make calls and they don't work outside of the house, basically. But yeah. So they have devices. Like I know that's probably I don't know if I'm defeating the purpose or what, but yeah, my son will get a phone for 8th grade next year. And then, I haven't crossed that bridge yet as to what he's going to be able to see, but no, they have not. They know what I do. Like they know, and I've told them some of my jokes and they're like, okay, cool, whatever. But I mean, a lot of my
reaction.
yeah. No, it's like, no. I need some feedback here. But a lot of my jokes are stuff that I really don't want to say in front of them, or I'm afraid that they will maybe try to, even if it's not necessarily inappropriate, it may still be of a complicated nature. Mm-hmm. And so I don't my whole joke that I have about trying to get Alexa to play a song that has the N-word in the title. And my reluctance to use the word because it's not my word to use, and then trying to figure out how to get it to play. I'm selling the hell out of this joke by explaining it this way. But anyway, that's not a joke I want my son to repeat anywhere.
I think the setup for that was very, very awkward. It's like, I'm really trying to get Alexa to say the N-word. I'm like, wait, what?
And that's the whole premise of the joke.
I understand. Like you want to hear niggas in Paris, and it's hard to get Alexa to say the way that you just said that, Sean. I was like, is this conversation going to go a totally different way?
But that's really the premise of the joke, is that when I tell it, it's just like everybody does kind of like, especially people like they tighten up. They're like, where is this guy going? Is he going to be one of those comics who thinks he can say it? And obviously the whole point is my discomfort with even just talking to an inanimate object, trying to get it to do something. And so that's the whole point of the joke is that, but that's still like, I think it's a good joke, but that's not something I want my son to repeat to his friend.
Yeah, that might be a little bit difficult. What about when there's black in the title? Do you whisper it?
When there's black in the title?
Play Black Sabbath.
No, I feel like I'm allowed to say that.
It's just a funny thing. White people, for some reason, whenever the word black is involved, they just like whisper it. Like they're not supposed to say the word black. Like, he was black.
Well, we never know what we're supposed to be saying these days. Is it people of color? Is it
I feel like for the rest of the episode, I should just try to make you uncomfortable with what you're supposed to say next.
Citizens of Wakanda. Like, I don't.
Wakanda? How dare you invoke the name of the great nation? Wakanda, Sean.
It is a great nation.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it just okay. Where were we?
Kids and whether
Kids in the N-word. That's right. You were trying to get them to
trying to get my son to stop using the N-word. Just come on, buddy.
Man, I'm just one. I'm just gonna give you a little. Maybe I don't know if you're telling the story. If you're telling a joke, tell it the way you tell it. If you tell the story, maybe set it up a little bit different.
That's fair. That's fair. It just sometimes like, and I'm sure like you get this as a comedian. Like when you start telling something, do like people? You're like, oh, is that one of your jokes?
Yeah.
Is that one of your jokes? Do you like tell that? Is that like one of your like just if you just were saying something funny?
I get that every now and then, but what I get more is someone's like, "Oh, you could use this." Oh,
yeah,
and that is the most annoying. It's just like, hey, I hang out with professional and sometimes amateur, and a lot of times amateur comedians. So nothing you're saying is probably going to rise to the level of being warranted to go into a joke. Although all my friends who are funny enough to say things that are funny enough to go on stage would never say you should put this in your joke. Like they're just funny naturally. You know what I mean? It's just something about being funny naturally that you're not like, oh, say that if you ever suggest for somebody to put something on stage, you're probably not funny and you shouldn't do that.
It's that thing. It's like, yeah, a comedian knows, like, if they say something, I mean, and then that obviously happens. Like, even if you are just in a conversation with somebody and something funny comes up, you think of something funny, you say something. There is part of you that are just like, oh, I could turn that into a bit. Like I could like whatever. Like I don't need you to tell me that it's. But yeah, very often it's just as like when you're talking to a coworker and about some specific story about some other coworker, and it's just like you should use that in your act, and it's just like nobody knows Susan. That's not going to be funny. Like it's.
You know what I think I might start doing is when they say that, I'll just say no. Turn no and then stare at them. And I'll tell you what, here's how you know. If you're a civilian, as we call them, as not stand-ups, if you're a civilian and you say something that is funny, and I think I should put it in a joke, I will immediately get on my phone and start typing. If I get on my phone and start typing, I'm not ignoring you. I'm writing it down because I thought it was funny. If I don't do that, it didn't rise to the level of humor, and you should not suggest it. So but with that said, do your kids ever suggest to you jokes? Do they ever give you like things, not through their actions, but they actually say, hey, this would be funny, it's funny in high school, you should say this?
So it's interesting because like my son is always trying to write jokes because like you talked about parroting and all that stuff. My son, even though he is 12, is still trying to be like a mini version of me. Which is both adorable and confusing at the same time because I'm very much like, don't you want to aim a little higher? But I mean, you can't get mad. I mean, it's adorable, like how much he tries to emulate me and stuff. So he tries to write his own jokes, and they're not very good.
Oh, really?
But I mean,
can you give us an example of one? Is there one off the top of your head that go grab his notebook? Let's read his notebook on air.
I'll go get it. No, it just basically like bad punny stuff that like almost like dad jokes, but like a 12-year-old wrote them. And he can be fun, like he can be funny and whatever, but like he tries to write these jokes. Meanwhile, my daughter is actually naturally very funny. Like she just has, and she doesn't try, like she just has very good timing, has a very good sense of that absurdist type of humor. So she can, but she has no desire to get up in front of people ever. And before, like she does not have that bug. So she's just going to be quietly funny probably for the rest of her life. Meanwhile, I think I could see my son, trying to get that attention in other ways. And I will say he's a very charismatic kid. So he at least has that going for him, that he can still command people's attention. Just, he'll probably get a lot of polite laughter.
Yeah. I think, the thing about comedy is it's all about timing. One of the oldest jokes in the book, right?
Love it.
But it is interesting because my son definitely has great comedic timing, just naturally. You know, the thing that he does now is I'll say something and he'll be like, "Oh no!" just no matter like what it was, you know, I'll be like, "Oh, I need to go grab the oh, I forgot the orange juice," and he's just like, "Oh no!" like the Macaulay Culkin type thing, or
I
like
love
if
it.
I say something, you know, like talking to my wife, he'll be like, "What?" which is also hilarious. But
That's a great bit.
yeah, it's a great bit. It works every time. He's like, "What?" but it's just his like how he shakes it all. He's got the physical thing in there too. I think he's working his way to be. And the funny thing is, I can tell it's not like one of those things where he's doing it and he doesn't realize it's humorous. Like I could tell he does it and then he notices the laugh, and like every true comedian, he milks it and he like goes back to the well, like, "Oh, that was good. You like that? Huh? Okay, what?" And he'll like add to it and keep doing it to get the laugh. He's a ham. He loves hamming it up, and I like him hamming it up. I'm like, all right, good. Like it would suck to have a kid who has a terrible sense of humor. It's just like, I love you, but your sense of humor is not good. Like that would be tough. You know, how can you love somebody with a terrible sense of humor? Right? How could
Well, and that is very important, right? Because you can have a great sense of humor and not necessarily be funny yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Being funny and having a great sense of humor are two different things, and not everybody realizes that.
Please explain.
Being funny and having a great sense of humor is that in my definition, having a great sense of humor you can still appreciate good humor. You can still you can get good jokes. You can laugh at a wide variety of things. You can just be an appreciator of comedy, but you don't necessarily have to be one who is the one dishing it out. You know, like you don't have to be the one who's telling the jokes. You can just really get the really clever comedy or even the absurdist comedy or just, you know, fart jokes, you know, like you can still be like, but the person who is just like, no, I just like one comedian or this one type of comedy and that's it. And that's the only thing that's funny to me and nothing else is funny. And it's like, well, that's not a very good sense of humor.
Yeah. Like so you don't understand. You can't sense it. I guess that's what it is. You can't sense when something is funny versus someone who can, like the Finnish or like the Swedish or whatever, you know, like they don't necessarily, they're not out there telling jokes, but they, you know, they'll get it. And I feel like they laugh on the inside a lot of times. They'll be like, I said some joke at work and there's a Finnish instructor or Sweden, one of those Scandinavian country instructors, and she was sitting there, and then she just sat there for a minute. She's like, "Oh, is that what's a joke? Very funny." Like they analyze it as opposed to they don't like outwardly like it's like, "Oh yes, I see the humor in that because this and this," and they have to like analytically break it down and be like, "Ah, that equals laugh for you, not for me." But I get it. So yeah, man, that's cool. So here on the podcast, something that we like to do is we like to ask people what they like to nerd out about. We call it the blurting question. So what do you like to nerd out about?
Oh man, I've been ready for this question because again I've been listening to everybody else's. And I am the basic B when it comes to nerdy stuff, man. I love superheroes, I love comic books, I love movies, I like technology.
But what's the one thing, like if someone was talking about it, you would know a surprisingly a lot about it?
That's such a good question because I've used that before. I was like, I feel like that's such a great icebreaker, and I pitch it as if you suddenly had to start talking for 45 minutes and not stop, what topic would you pick? And I my two answers would be either Spider-Man or Walt Disney World.
Really? We had somebody else who was talking about Walt Disney like Disney World, which is I feel like that's such an odd thing to nerd out about. It's like, no, the commerce of Disney is what I'm really into. What of Walt Disney World do you like? Like, is it the structure, the land, the real, like, what is it about it? Or is it the entity of Disney and all its properties? Like, what is it about?
It is. It's so I definitely like to then specify, like, I am not a Disney adult, although some people would probably say that I am, because I just said Disney World is one of my favorite things to talk about. But like like I don't have an ear collection anywhere or something like that. Although I do love Star Wars and Marvel, and then now they're both Disney properties. So anyway, I think it definitely comes from nostalgia. And when I was a kid, you know, my family took us there, and so I have the attachment to the place. But then I gained a new sense of attachment to it when I got older, and so I'm an engineer. And what I am so fascinated by the parks themselves is that when you enter their park, there is not anything that you see, hear, or you know, experience that they haven't planned for. So like they know, they have everything down to a science there of controlling, and this is gonna sound creepy, but controlling how you think and feel when you get there. Like they used, you know, forced perspective to make the tops of buildings look smaller so that it makes them look like bigger overall. They pump in smells so that you start to get hungry when you're walking down Main Street. It's like, oh, I want some popcorn. They have special paints that when they are doing construction, they've done like scientific analysis of paint colors that are designed to basically make you not interested in it, like to literally want to look away, so that when they have construction walls up, you're not going to be like, oh, this could, like, let's go look at something else type of thing. Like, I'm just fascinated from that level of control that they have over you when you enter.
Sounds like you're really into manipulation and commerce.
Well, that sounds terrible, but I would like to say it's more of the just entertainment aspect.
I don't think like I'm really into the control sounds much better. I think it's equal parts.
I think it's just the science and engineering behind all of it, you know? That's what I'm going to go with.
Right. So how do you parent then? Do you feel like you institute some of that? Like, oh, I'm going to use some of these Disneyland tactics on my kids. Like when I want them to come down for dinner, I'm going to pump some like smells into their room, or like.
Oh man, I wish I had that kind of control over my life. I think that's more of what it is that I just feel my life is out of control. And if I go to Disney, everything is under control. They're controlling every aspect of it.
It's like,
it's like Sean, basically I welcome the Borg as our overlords.
This is like, Sean, what are you really into? This is like dictatorships. I really like Disney does it the best.
You know what I hate is free will. That's what I'm really down on. I want uniformity and consistency.
I'm learning a lot about you, Sean, here. I'm learning so much. These are things that I did not know from being around the comedy scene with you, but it's all great stuff, man. It's all good
you say
stuff.
So. Well, that is funny. I mean, that's why, like, I'm trying to be better about that, because again, like as I'm nearing 40, and and I'm sure you probably maybe have started, but it'll definitely get more like as you get older and as your kids get older, your friends or the people you hang out with more and more become the parents of your kids' friends.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Luckily, I am an older parent. So just naturally, I'm not hanging out with a bunch of 20-year-olds anyway. So everybody I'm hanging out with already had their kids. As a matter of fact, it was probably weird that they were hanging out with me, because I was like single dude out here, getting it, living life up until I was 40.
Well, and so that's been, I was on the flip side of that. So when my kids were 2, the people who also had 2-year-olds were also 40. So it's not that much of a difference in the grand scheme of things, but every now and then it would come out about just like, oh, we grew up in different times, man. Like it's you
But you
know,
keep them young, like you keep the 40-year-old parent is like, oh, we're gonna have Sean, and he's the young dad. Like let's invite. You probably get more invites when you're like an older parent. It's like, we don't want to invite the old people to the to the
well,
thing.
but the
That's what I
point
feel
is,
like I get.
well, it is yes and no. I mean, yes, we my wife and I we had plenty of invites to go hang out with people. But then the other thing that was funny is that my wife's friends very often were her coworkers, other teachers, and they would be maybe a couple years older than us, because my wife and I are the same age. But then their husbands several times would be 8-10 years older than them. So I'm straight up hanging out with people who are my dad's peers. And that got, I mean, again, always incredibly nice people, and they were very good resources to have when it came to having parents. When you're a young parent and you're young yourself, you don't know what the heck you're doing. So having all of this wisdom and experience.
I feel like when you hang out with older people, they're like, they're talking about older people stuff, and you're like, I just had Pop-Tarts for lunch, like I'm trying to hold on by the skin of my teeth here. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with this kid, and you have a retirement plan. Like, you're going to retire next year.
No, see, that's literally what they would be. They'd be like talking about like, yeah, so we think maybe, in the next couple of years we'll retire. And I'm just like, retirement, what's that?
Yeah. Right.
And then, but anyway, it was just like, it felt, I always would feel weird because it was like, and then every now and then, one of them would go off on a rant about millennials, and I'd just be like, hey, I'm a millennial. And they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, yeah, man, I am.
No, you're not. You like control like we do. You're one of us.
Exactly.
But this is interesting that I just found out from you, is that your wife is a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And so you're in the thick of doing the parent teacher conferences and whatnot.
Yep.
What is that like? Because I feel like they didn't go well for me when I was a child, so I don't know how they're going to go for me as a parent. Like, I feel like I'll still be getting chastised. I thought I got out of school to not have to deal with that type of thing. What is that? What am I in for?
So it all depends on your kid, man, and as you established. And what I will say is that I probably, well, I'm the type of parent where it's, what did my kid do? I am not the parent where it just is like, no, what did you do to my precious baby? Like, it's just like, no. I know my kid. I know he screwed up, or he didn't do what he was supposed to, or whatever. It's just like, what can we do to fix this? Or what do we got to focus on, or whatever. But like, there are still so many parents that come in there and then just like, well, yeah, but have you tried giving him cookies when he's bad?
Right.
And it's like, no, I haven't tried that. That's interesting. That's a weird, I see why your child behaves this way.
You know what I just saw? I just saw a movie called Old Dads, and it was
Bill Burr's movie?
Yeah, with Bill Burr, his first directorial debut. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a review for it. I do these reviews called Whispering Reviews, and it came out of when my wife was pregnant, and I was in the other room trying to do this review, but she's pregnant or the baby's sleeping, and I can't, go all out. So I had to like whisper when I was talking. I was like, you know what? That's just going to be the thing now. I'm just doing.
I love it.
So I'm doing a whispering review on Old Dads, and I'd love that movie because I it's funny. I think when you watch the movie, you're supposed to feel like, oh, these dads are out of touch and they're so angry. And I just was agreeing with all those out of touch and angry moments. I'm like, yeah, he's right. I don't understand why this person is bothering them about being 2 minutes late when traffic was crazy. Like, get out of here,
it's funny. I forgot, I had a conversation with somebody this weekend about it. They said they saw it and said it was really good. And it just is a shame because like I know that the reviews have been kind of mixed for it, and I do think it is coming from the maybe younger generations who have gotten poked fun at a little bit, because that's what I heard, that he kind of does poke like a little bit of fun at. I mean, it's Bill Burr, so I mean, like, one, he's a genius, and two, I feel like he's pretty fair in his criticism of stuff. Like, he doesn't just attack people like, oh, Gen Z, they stink. It's just like, no, he's got very valid criticism of himself and others. And so when I heard the reviews, people were saying like, oh yeah, no, it's just a big middle finger to Gen Z or whatever. And I was like, Gen Z doesn't have kids yet, so
They
what are
don't
you
know
talking
yet.
about?
Yeah, right. No, I think when I watched it, what I got from it was there there's a like an older way of doing things and a newer way of doing things. And initially, one side thinks that they're right about everything, but by the end of the movie, you kind of get the idea that hey, there is a little bit of maturing that the older generation has to do in terms of their ideas and ideologies, and then there is a little bit of growing up and also maturing of that younger generation of like, hey, this isn't quite useful, or this isn't quite how things are going to um age well. This is not, society does not win by either one of these merits. You know what I mean? There's some
No.
meeting in the middle. We have to be a little bit more sensitive about things, but y'all need to rub some dirt on it and keep it moving,
Oh,
like so,
absolutely.
so there's a little bit of both of those. I thought it was great. There were multiple laugh out loud moments in there, so I recorded a review for it. I gotta go back and look at the review and make sure that I put all the points in there. But it was great. I'm an old dad. You're not a I'm a new dad and an old dad, Sean, which I know you'll give me shit for, but
You're an old new dad.
I'm an old new dad. So I totally understood it because they have that all these things. When you're an older dad and you're dealing with these younger kids, you're just like, I don't get it. Like I don't get what this what these people are doing. This kid is like a little hellion, and you're like you said, you're like, oh, maybe if we give him some cookies, it'll be okay. It's like he's setting the house on fire.
Yeah,
He
I
could
don't
bake the
understand that.
cookies with the heat that he's creating.
Yeah. Like I don't, I mean, look, there's aspects to the idea of gentle parenting that makes sense. And then there's other aspects of just like, no, if your child is literally like, running around with a knife and chasing, the kid next door, it's like you can hit them. Like it's okay.
Right, so I guess how did the parent teacher conferences go for you? Was there anything interesting or fun about it, or are you the outside looking in, like what y'all have to deal with this?
It is a little bit of that because again, like I was talking to Glenn before that. My kids go to the school that my wife teaches at. So the parent teacher conferences are with her coworkers and often sometimes her friends. So that's an interesting aspect of it. Like I can't, even if I did want to maybe go in guns a blazing a little bit, I can't because I gotta be nice. I really, that doesn't happen. I mean, I will say I like these and respect these people very much. And like I said, I am of the parent mentality of just like, look, I know my kid. Like I know he's not doing everything that he's supposed to be doing. And he's a smart kid. I'm like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like he's doing very well in school. It's not like we're worried about him. It's more just like he could be doing better, and we know that he's slacking, and that's where we need to. But it's a little bit of just like, okay, but like, what are you doing in this equation? Because it's that thing too of, and you'll get there eventually, that like the amount of connection these kids have to their classmates and their teachers these days, way more than we ever had. I mean, like there are apps there, like all of the homework is posted online, not just the assignments themselves, but like literally the work that they have to do. So like they never have to bring a textbook home. It's all downloadable.
You're
Everything
living
like,
in my utopia, bro. This is how I hated carrying a backpack to school. I hated carrying
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, but that's the whole point, because basically they're like, oh, well, kids forget their books, so let's basically get rid of textbooks. So like it just is like, so yeah, it's all like things that they can download, like PDFs and stuff online, videos to watch, all that stuff. And so whenever they're just like, oh yeah, I forgot that I had math homework, it's just like, how could you have forget? It's literally the problems are right there, man. Like
Yeah.
and so as a parent, it just like, I don't even have ammunition to go in and be like, oh, well, it's not his fault he forgot how the internet works. Like
Because it's totally his fault that he forgot.
it is. So parents, give teachers give them a break. Like they're doing the best they can.
Yeah, it's got to be tough, man. It's got to be tough dealing with the curriculums and everything, dealing with the kids now. I mean, back in the day, if you got a textbook, you needed that textbook because the all the information was in the book. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't extra information that was out there that you could just go see, and there wasn't like better information. So it's like whatever textbook you got, that was just the information that you got. There was no other resource. Maybe you could go to the library and try to figure out the Dewey Decimal System and get more information, but for the most part, whatever book you were issued was the knowledge that you were going to have in that subject. Nowadays they can literally find out about any subject that they want in depth, like within minutes, so it's a different world. Like, I feel like the skill sets that they need to have are parsing information, because there's no reading comprehension. I feel like now, like I think that was a class that we had to take, was reading comprehension, where we had to actually comprehend what we've read and what it meant. And I feel like nowadays that is a trait and a skill that is very lacking, and I see it oftentimes when I talk to somebody who they'll talk about like a news article, or they'll talk about, something that they saw in the news media. I'm like, hey, did you ever break down like what that means or why they're saying it, or, any critical thinking there? And it's like, no, I'm just parroting back what they say to me. And
not only that, is that you could have two different people, consume the same piece of media, whether it's reading an article or watching a news thing, and come away with two different takeaways.
Right. Yeah, and we used to debate that in class, and now there's no more like debate or talk about it. It's just kind of like, no, this is the official, this is the story, this is what it is. There's no like, what did you comprehend from it? Critical thinking, like, what did you think about it? Oh, interesting, put that on the board. What did you think about it? Oh, interesting, put that on the board. And then you go back and forth and be like, oh, this is what was meant, or whatever. This is what Shakespeare meant by, this in the text, or what. Like, there's no, I don't feel like there's much more of that. It's kind of like, no, this is what was the author meant, and this is it. This is like all that you have from it. This is all that you get from it. I don't know. It's just a weird, I don't know. I don't know if you agree. You like control, so I feel like you like the one thought narrative. Like, no,
just this is what the author Disney meant. World, man. Just in Disney World. That's it.
I have to get you back, because every time when I'm on stage, and now it's like you don't even say anything, and then I'll hear myself say, "I'm a new dad," and then I'll just think of your face in the audience, like.
Now, in fairness, it was Dwayne too. Dwayne gave you some hard time about that too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's.
But he also puts you on stage, so you're going to be nice to him.
I mean, no, it's. I give him the same amount of crap. Dwayne also likes control. I put a bottle cap in his fire pit, and he's like, that doesn't burn. Aluminum doesn't burn at that temperature. It's like, shut up, dude.
What's going to happen to it?
Exactly. Shut up. What are you talking about? Anyways, I love Dwayne. You know what? I totally respect the solo stove. I'm so sorry for putting a bottle cap, which many people put in there. You're going to empty out the ashes anyway. Like,
right. Like, you'll be fine.
I think it's more worrisome if it melts into the fire pit, because anyways, we're getting way off subject here. It's because I love Dwayne, man. I love you. You brought him on. It's your fault.
It always is.
Anyways, so what do you got going on? You got some more shows coming up in the near future?
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of took a impromptu break. It wasn't like something that I set out to do, but just life got busy. Again with kids. So it just like the last month I haven't been too busy, but I went out last night, did a mic, trying to reach out to some bookers, see if I could start getting in some shows. So yeah, I mean, with the holidays coming up, that always gets tricky. But at least if I could start lining stuff up for the winter, that would be
people
great.
Need laughs. This is like seasonal depression is like a real thing. So people need laughs.
That is real for me. That's for sure.
So you need to get out there.
I hate winter. I hate winter.
And you know what else is great? And this will probably help out for your comedy woes and your longing for stage time is it's election season. So you could run for,
I'll run for local government on the same platform of just guys, I just want to get up in front. I mean, but I don't know, local politicians don't get to make too many speeches. Like it's I'll just tell everybody, just follow my Instagram. And I don't even have to win at that point.
Listen, it's the same thing for comedians and politicians. When you get up there and it's not going well, you're like, hey, how's everybody doing out there?
So what else is going on? What else do I want to talk about?
Anybody dating? What are you dating?
What do you do for a living, sir?
Yeah, exactly. What do you do for a living? Or I think it's politicians and comedians are very much the same, cut from the same cloth a lot of times. They'll say anything for the
You just want
desired
attention.
result.
Yeah.
All right, man. How can people find you if they wanted to check you out, or they wanted to look you up, they wanted to have a giggle with you?
Definitely Instagram. Sean is fine, I guess. On Instagram, SEAN is fine, I guess. And I you know what? One of the things I'm debating I just have one Instagram for everything, so that's got my personal life, like my kids and stuff, and comedy stuff too. I'm debating if I should separate and make a comedy one, but I don't
Only
think
if
my
you're a
life's interest.
professional.
What?
Only if you're a professional.
Yeah, and I'm not. So for now, I'll just stick with the one. And my kids can be pretty funny, so you'll still get laughs out of it.
I don't know what to do about that either. I mean, I have separated it out, but in terms of putting your kids on social media, I don't know what to do about it, because when they grow up, all those things will be out there, and then someone else can use them or whatever. We don't know where the future is going to go. I mean, it could be, what about the robot apocalypse? And if you put your kids online somewhere, it's like, oh, now we've got a picture of them or what. Like, we don't know. I try to limit the amount that I put him on social media for that reason, but it doesn't matter. Like, it gets out anyway. It's been there anyway. So I wonder if I'm thinking about it too much. What do you think in terms of that, like putting your kids out there, especially with doing the comedy or whatever? They'll be attached to it.
It's funny because obviously with a 2-year-old and stuff, they're still very cute at that age, and so and they're not doing or saying anything that for the most part is going to get you feel like would come back and haunt them. Like it's nothing but adorableness at that age. So I would post. I mean, that was even kind of why I started. That's not why I started social media, but my social media for a while was basically just my kids, and it was so that grandma and grandpa could see pictures and of them. Weirdly enough, actually, it was my grandma and grandpa. My parents have no social media at all, but my grandparents would follow along on Instagram. But no, and as I said, my son is basically a year away from being able to have his own social media account. So, it's always that thing of, for the 200 people that follow me, I'm not too worried about anything really causing a problem. But God forbid, like, something I ever did went viral and I suddenly had like thousands of followers, then that may make me reconsider that. I don't know. That's a bridge that I haven't had to even think about crossing yet. So who knows?
Yeah, think about it though. You're funny. People are going to gravitate towards you, and then you'll have to think about it.
Maybe in the next 18 years.
Yeah, I could see it. I can see it happening. I don't know. Interesting. Oh, I did see, by the way, as we're wrapping up here, I did see that you are you smoke meat, or are you a barbecuer?
Oh man, I love barbecue. I guess that would have been probably a better thing to say I nerd out about. I regret my decision to mention Disney World.
Yeah. It's like, what are you nerding about? Control. I love control.
Well, but with meat, really enjoy barbecue. It's the same thing. It's control again. Like, I try to keep that meat at a certain temperature for so long. Yeah. It's all about control.
Yeah, I'm actually smoking something right now. I'm smoking like a pork loin right now. Ooh. So like nice and like 200 something. But I have like a Weber. It's a little bit harder to control the temperature because it's it's like charcoal, and you're moving the vent and all that type of stuff. So usually it'll like go up, and then I'll let it like coast down, and then go up, and then coast down, and go up. And then, so that's what I'm doing right now. As a matter of fact, after we finish this is where I got to go check on to make sure the temperatures were where they were supposed to be. Hopefully it didn't slow too far down and the fire go out.
This is a great time of year for smoking, just because it's
Isn't it?
cold enough out
With the
that
leaves
it
and I don't mind I don't mind the heat, so I don't mind smoking in the summer or not. But the fall is great, you know, with because the smoke gets even smokier with the leaves falling. You get to put on your flannel jacket and be one with the woods. It's just
have a beer while you just sit out there. It's great.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing it. It's something that I've taken up recently, but you're right. It is kind of cool with the control and the fire and everything, and just how it goes. People use like the pellet grills and all that type of stuff with all the electronics, but I like to do it with like the coal and moving things around. And once I got the fire pit, I really got into like fires, because every fire I feel like has a life of its own, and I've done fires where I'm like, "Oh, you are a nasty fire. You're like whipping around and you know what I mean, like licking your tongue at me, like you're a little devilish fire." And there's some that's
you might be a little too into fire there, Glenn.
I'm not an arsonist, I don't like to see things burn, but I do like to like you control the fire. I like to move it around, get it circulating and all that type of stuff.
No, I'm with you. It is very cool. And at the end of the day, especially with barbecue, I mean, it is pretty hard to really screw up barbecue. Like you could even the most mediocre barbecue is still something you don't necessarily regret eating.
Yes, I do have some friends who burn things a lot, and I'm like, how did you?
Well,
but you can eat around it. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like even there are certain things you can do. Like a pork butt is very forgiving. Like you can just throw that on there and just let it cook forever. And, it may come out a little dry. But there's nothing barbecue sauce can't fix, Right. But I love like my favorite kind to do is Texas brisket. That is my favorite thing to smoke. And
listen, now that you've said that, you got to invite us over to have some or bring some to the mic. I got to try the brisket.
Absolutely. Done.
Nice. Well, so this is fun. You got to come on here. I know you've been wanting to come check this out. I meant to ask you what your favorite episode so far was, the one that you enjoyed, because we're narcissists. I'd like to know these type of things. What was the favorite episode so far of the podcast?
I really liked your conversation with Joey. And just talking, because again, he's got 3 boys himself, and you guys talking about the skibbity toilet and trying to and I understand that completely, because like I didn't know what that was, but it's been in the background. Like I've heard references to it in passing from my kids. So when I heard that conversation, I was just like, oh, is that what that is? And then, Joey talking about his nerding out over his record collection and everything. And
we should have a party. We should have a record. Are you into records too? Like if Joey,
I actually weirdly got recently into vinyl. Yeah.
What? Thank you for reminding me. I'm going to circle back to Joey Kuhn and be like, hey, listen, you need to have a vinyl listening party. Everybody's in for it, bro. Like you love doing this. Let's put it together. We're going to come over and maybe we can make it a sleepover. All the kids come over. We just spend the night listening to records.
I'll bring the brisket.
You bring the brisket.
Joey supplies the tunes, and it'll be no short on laughter. I guarantee that.
There you go. It'll be a great time. Well, shoot, we ran the gamut here. We talked about our love of Disney. We talked
the love of control and fire.
We talked about control and fire, and even we talked about politics, and the real reason behind most people wanting to get into politics being the stage time that they get.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what if that came out, like all the politicians when they retired, like, actually I just wanted stage time, and
I just wasn't getting on the mics enough, so I decided to run for office.
But with all that said, I don't think there's anything left to say except for Blerd Dad out.
Like that.